This is the future.
So it looks like the new Warframe, Citrine, is more than just a support after all. And, I'm right in calling the Warframe as one of the best support in the game. It gives 90% damage reduction to the whole team, and it's within affinity range and it lasts very long as you are killing enemies and have enough duration. Not to mention that the Warframe can also provide fuck-ton energy and health orb drops which Equilibrium users can exploit. It's not just the team that have survivability and infinite energy, but also Citrine, which makes her also a good solo Warframe. Hell, Steel Path levels are really easy with this Warframe and you can't die just by using her own kit. And this makes the Warframe even more appealing to me. Without the help of the Helminth system, Citrine can absolutely survive and does decent damage to higher level enemies, which makes her a very fun Warframe for casual use. Okay, let me explain her abilities further, but I won't give those bullshit descriptions. Instead, I will share to you how it's properly utilized in real missions. So the passive grants 5 health regeneration per second to Citrine and her allies within affinity range. It stacks up to 25 health per second at max while you gather health orbs, and you can exploit this by using her first ability that grants increased drop chance of health orbs for those enemies affected by her first ability. And mind you, her first ability is spammable without the help of Arcane Energize or any energy regen mods. All you need is Equilibrium and you can exploit her first ability to gain infinite amount of energy. The only thing that I don't like about her passive is that it would take some time to have that max health regen. Come on DE, 25 health per second is not that game breaking and you should at least give it to us in 3 to 5 health orbs gathered. Next, we have her first ability called Fractured Blast. The blast is fan-shaped and it can hit through walls. Enemies hit are marked with a gem above them and the chance to drop orbs is affected by strength and can go over 100% to drop multiple orbs at once. For example, 167% gives you 67% chance to have a second orb drop from an enemy. This is the subsumable ability of Citrine, but with half effectiveness. So far, this ability is your ticket to have infinite amount of energy using the Equilibrium mod. Moving on, we got her second ability called Preserving Shell. This ability also makes you jump and staggers close enemies on cast. It has a max damage reduction of 90%, and it stacks with adaptation, plus it's given to allies like an aura across affinity range. In case you don't know, affinity range is equals to 50 meters, but there's another way to increase the range so you won't have any problem at all when using it with a team, and that is the Vazarin Focus School, which further increases the range to 75 meters. This can be recast while active, and her damage can be maintained even when the ability is not active. So, if the ability runs out you can recast and still have max damage reduction. This is by far one of the best support ability in the game right now, and I can say it's second and the first right now is the new Revenant augment called Mesmer Shield. The third ability is very interesting, and it gives a fuck ton of synergy with your weapons, especially with galvanized status mods. Named Prismatic Gem, this ability will summon a gem that shoots prismatic beams. Enemies that got damage with your weapon will be prioritized first, but it can be overridden by your first ability. Prismatic Gem will not trigger when with any abilities alone, and casting your first ability into targets will be the only way to override it. The best weapon, aside from your first ability, to use with Prismatic Gem are those beam weapons like the Kuvanuka or the Tenet Cyclone, as it can hit multiple targets. The same goes with Proboscis and Oz, and as well as Kuva Ogris with Nightwatch Napalm. Take note that the ability forces you to the ground, and the gem isn't affected by gravity. It can target through walls, but only one enemy at a time. As I have said earlier, it targets enemies hit by your first ability, but if more enemies are hit at once, it will shoot each enemy one until all of them have been hit, with a fire rate of 1 attack per second. Lastly, when enemies get hit, it will proc the said status, making Condition Overload crazy and even Condition Overload mad. And lastly, we talk about her ultimate ability called Crystallize. Enemies hit by this ability will grow crystals, and shooting the crystals makes you red crit. This also forces you to the ground just like your third ability, and can be recasted only when at least one target has been killed. There's no limit to how many crystals are unleashed. The ability drops a crystal for every enemy within range and line of sight. The neat part is, it can immobilize bosses and acolytes. can target enemies with overguard, but it won't immobilize them, not even after breaking the overguard, but the crystals will still grow and you can deal red crit when you shoot it. Okay, let's talk about the red crit. It would be fun if AoE weapons work with this, and the mechanic should be breaking the crystal instead of shooting it, but I guess it's kinda broken. So yes, AoE weapons don't work with this well. Although some does work, like the Spore Lasser's direct hit, but those high fire rate or even beam weapons are far superior with Citrine, as you will enjoy those red crits. For the build, I go with high range with decent power strength. With Molt augmented, I can buff the health orb drop chance of Fractured Blast to 106%, hence I don't need to pump it more, as this will be enough for infinite energy with the help of Equilibrium. Also, Blind Rage is not really that bothersome for this build, as each cast of Fractured Blast will absolutely guarantee energy regen for this build. With Mecha Mod set, I can further boost the survivability of this Citrine build through adding Arcane Guardian, and getting insane buff from Mecha Pulse. I usually get around 1000 plus armor buff from Mecha Pulse through using my Kuva Ogris paired with her third ability and the extra burn coming from Archon Vitality. However, it's kind of bothersome to keep the dog alive with Citrine, as I think you can't give it the damage reduction buff. In the new survival missions in the Orokin Moon, the dog gets down usually when there are lots of special units around, but my Citrine keeps regenerating health and super tanky, giving me the idea that the preserving shell buff is not shared in your companion. If you think you don't need extra tankiness, then replace it with more range if you want, with Archon Stretch if possible. Overall, Citrine is a simple Warframe that at first glance, the description doesn't say anything about ability synergy, but her kit actually has a purpose to make her strong and tanky. I can say that this Warframe is well built, and I commend Digital Extremes for that. I did not even bother with Helminth builds for this Warframe, so big props to the developer. Take note that this is just a first impression, and I'm trying out more builds for Citrine. This Warframe can be purchased from the in-game market, or by earning her blueprints either from the rotation rewards from the new Tiana Pass node on Mars, and or by trading with Otak in the Necrolisk. Go try out the Warframe now and enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off.